So we have around 64 people. I think we'll wait for 2 or 3 minutes. Then start.
Yeah. I think another 1 or 2 minutes we can wait, and we can start with the context.
People are joining. So yeah, thank you everybody. We'll begin in another 2-3 minutes. Thank you for joining in on time. Just wait for a few more minutes for a few more people coming in. Then we begin. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in. We'll begin in a minute or two. Please keep your mics muted so that we don't get an echo. Thank you. I think we can begin, Pula.
Yes, we should start.
Right. So, good evening. I'm getting a little echo. Just request everyone to keep their mic muted. So, good evening, everybody, and thank you for taking out your time in terms of on a Saturday evening to attend this webinar. So, before I kind of start talking about the webinar, I mean, I'd also like to thank IIM Calcutta and Professor Apurva Bharadwaj as well as Professor Pragyan Rath for joining in, taking out their time and joining in. So Pulak will be, sharing details about the professors. In the meanwhile, I thought I'll kind of, just set the context of, this program, and so that we can start, talking about it in the context of what the program is all about. So communication is key to success in every walk of life, whether it's personal, professional, in every area and arena of life. I think communication is extremely essential, and more so right now in a very disruptive environment, an environment which is hyper competitive, what we call as a VUCA world, right? And I'm sure that, as professionals, as senior leaders, and as we are transitioning into senior leadership roles, you also understand the importance of communication and I mean the importance of strategic communication, right? That is, I mean, to kind of influence and to draw your influence to kind of persuade people, to negotiate, to manage conflict, etc. Right. So this is a very key important skill and a competency that is required as we grow as senior professionals in the industry. Whenever we think of communication, we always think about the how part of communication, how well you communicate. While that is important, what is more important is the what part of communication, the thought behind communication, the strategy behind communication, and what you communicate. That becomes more important. And this program actually is focuses more, while the how part of it is of course there, but it focuses more on the what part of it, right? So that's the importance of this program. Communication happens at various levels, right? I mean, you would be communicating with senior leadership, board members. You have your presentations, persuasion over there. Communication will happen with your various stakeholders. It could be with your peers or reportees, where you may have to do conflict management. It could be with vendors and customers in terms of, again, persuasion or negotiation. So, there are various skills that you need to acquire to kind of communicate across, the all the stakeholders. And this program actually gives you, the frameworks, the toolkits, right? And to kind of communicate and get your way. The most important aspect of that is to kind of get your way and get people to kind of, be influenced by. So I think with that context, without, I mean, further ado, I hand it over to Pulak to introduce the faculty, and then we can start. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dres, and thank you everyone for joining in. Although it's a weekend, but you certainly have your own commitments. You have found time for this important session. I would greatly thank Professor Pragyan Rath, Professor Apurva Bharadwaj, for sharing their valuable time today, despite their busy schedule. I would like to give you some insights on Professor Apurva and Professor Pragyan, about their background and what they are doing currently. So, Dr. Apurva Bharadwaj is Associate Professor in Business Ethics and Communications Group at IIM Calcutta, and she has over 10 years of experience in teaching, research, and training. She's a gold medalist in MA, and she is a UGC, NET, SET qualified and holds a PhD in American fiction. Her research publications in national and international journals focus on marketing communications, organizational communications, literature, and management. Amongst the one of the book that she has published, one of the most acclaimed book is communication strategies for corporate leaders, possibly in the same name of the program that we are running and we are talking about today with Routledge, Taylor and Francis in 2018, and she published this jointly in collaboration with Professor Pragyan Rath. She is currently working on decoding advertising text using models of fictional narratives. Her forthcoming book focuses on various frameworks for public speaking. So a warm welcome to Professor Apurva, and look forward to a great session. Professor Pragyan Rath, Dr. Pragyan Rath is Associate Professor in Business Ethics and Communication Group at IIM Calcutta. She holds a PhD from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Her research publications in national and international journals focus on visual cultures, communication analytics, and language games. She teaches problem-solving techniques and advanced analytical skills in corporate communications across all programs at IIMC. She's developing strategic communication as a research and industry-focused expertise through her various authored collaborations, of which a few include Communication Strategies for Corporate Leaders, which was published in 2018, Corporate Communications, again published in 2018, and New Insights into Pragmatic Data Analytics in Corporate Communication, which was published by Business Experts Press 2020. I render a very warm welcome to Professor Pragyan as well. And I would open the forum to Professor Pragyan and Professor Apurva to speak, to give us a lot of light about how communication can shape a leader. And as it is well said that only management education cannot really take a leader to the next level till the time they master strategic communication. So how can strategic communication play a very vital role in taking a leap into the next level of leadership. Over to you, Professor Pragya and Professor Apurva. Professor Apurva, you have to unmute yourself. It seems you are muted.
Right, I'm able to press the button. I think.
Professor, okay, we'll check that. You can start, Professor Pragyan. In the meantime,
okay,
we'll
Apurva, I'm just.
Yeah.
Apurva, just unmute. I think it'll.
Muted and still now.
Yeah. Now it's okay.
The host was not allowing me to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Myself. Okay. All right. So should I begin, or Pragya, you want to begin?
You can start. I'll follow up.
All right. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. And as Mr. Darius Mehta has already given you an overview of the program, you must have got a hang of it as to what we are going to do in this module. Now, I would like to add on to what has been already shared with you by Darius, that we are going to position in this particular module communication as a strategy. So it's not just about how well you speak English or how smartly you present or how charismatic you are when it comes to speaking. It's more about how do you go for the content architecture, for emphasis on your key messages. How do you approach your content in a manner that you can persuade people who are your key stakeholders. And this is how you will be able to understand how to maneuver communication as a tool, right? And not just as you can say as a cosmetic peripheral requirement of your work as a manager. So what we intend to do in this, that we have certain modules there. You would have seen the brochure that we are going to cover. How do you go for public speaking as a leader? Then how do you handle cross-cultural audiences and conflicts? How do you handle conflicts at workplace? All right, there are various modules, some 8 to 10 modules you can see in the brochure. So what we are trying to do here is to give you a compact program. We are trying to give to you certain communication strategies which will help you from time to time. All right, in interpersonal communications, also when you communicate to your superiors or you communicate to your peers, and mainly as a leader when you have to mobilize your subordinates, all right, share your vision, mission, all right, and get actionated outcomes. So this is what is in our mind when we will be dealing with this course. And what we will be looking forward to this is, it's not just we will be lecturing and you would be listening. It would be like we will be discussing, there would be interaction, and whatever would be discussed in the class, you would be applying those frameworks, those strategies to different challenging situations which you may have to face as corporate managers. And then you see that how by applying those strategies, you can make your communication more persuasive, right, more convincing. So that's all what we intend to do in this course. So before I invite Pragya to add on to where I'm to add to what I'm speaking right now, I would just like to tell you that this is not any other course like where people talk about soft skills or English speaking or how do you manage your body language or how do you impress people. That's not our motive. Our motive is that how do you achieve your targets? How do you pitch your communication in a manner that can elicit actions, right? How it will help you to climb the echelons of corporate cadres to reach leadership position by communicating to your peers, subordinates, your vision, your mission, and inspire them and motivate them to work towards more productive goals. So that's what we are looking forward to do in this course. Over to you, Pragnya. And I invite Pragnya to take on from here.
Thank you, Apurva. You can mute the... Yeah, right. First and foremost, very nice seeing you, Darius, after a long time. And today I met Pulak, so thank you once again. And a very good evening to everybody. And thank you, Apurva, to set the ball rolling. To be very, very frank, there are a lot of courses on various platforms like Coursera. You must have heard of Coursera, right? And they have some 4 or 5 programs running. And in certain other coaching centers, there's a British council which also runs a program called Communicative English. So there are a lot of programs on communication as such, okay, in the market. And that's where I'm coming from. But this isn't like those other kind of programs. And there is a certain kind of research, both Apurva and myself, we've done through our experience of teaching in IIM Calcutta over the past 10 and more than a decade, actually, to figure out that space and gap of, what is it that enables communication in a more meaningful manner and to what context. Typically what you will find, right, when you want to study communication and the typical understanding of communication is, and I'm reiterating the points again, is how do I speak more effectively? So the whole angle of communication is, how do I present more effectively? So what do? You have jazzy PowerPoint presentations. How do I make greater PowerPoints? What is my body language? As if there's a formula to, how do I talk to my boss so that the boss listens to me? How do I look for incentives in a company? So what is it that I say and the company will just listen to my statement and get it done? With due respect to all the courses which seem to highlight those points, and they seem to have great formulas for talking to your all kinds of stakeholders where you magically talk and people listen, we would just be very honest about saying that that's not really how things happen. And that is not really what communication is as a subject. It's a very large, magnanimous subject and has various angles to it. Where are we coming in? We are talking about leadership, right? And leadership is about understanding a larger ecosystem. It is not just specifically about your organization and just the 5 members in your team or 100 members in your team. And what do you think about your subordinate, or what does your boss think about you, right? If that is all one has to think about, right, that is at a certain level of being a manager. Of course, then we can call this just simply as managerial communication. When we are talking about communication strategies for leaders, and leading is leading in a certain field, in a certain domain, you want to make an impact. And the impact is not at a very micro, myopic level. You're thinking large, you're thinking bigger, right? You're thinking of larger horizons, right? So when you're talking about leadership, it is not essentially about, first and foremost, how good your English is. Ideally, your English or whichever language you're comfortable in and your organization allows you to talk in should be good. Okay, they are called language skills. If they are not, there are courses which discuss about language, all right? Presentation skills, of course. Making a good PowerPoint presentation is essential to any corporate culture, but that in essence is not just about leadership. So when we are thinking about leaders and we are talking about communication strategies for leaders and a global corporate setup, corporate setup means the first thing that this course intends to do is develop a sense of understanding of the market. How good are you in understanding market and business, right? That is the overall ecosystem within which what you're going to do is do communication. Communication is just a tool. Right? The tool in itself cannot do everything, right? You will have to use the tool, and how do you use it, and where will you use? And there are so many subsets to the tools that becomes essentially very, very important. So it's more about becoming aware of my context, my requirements, and how do I use the tool, right? There are plenty of tools available, but how do I use it, right? To what purpose? So the understanding of the market and business as an ecosystem becomes important. Within that, the word that is becoming very popular is called strategy, because it is leadership, it is strategy. So in essence, this particular course, which is over 6 months, is more of a bird's eye view of different business contexts, different market contexts within which you are going to make a call on what and how to use in order to get the stakeholder or the consumer, or whatever you want to call on the other side, make an attempt to listen to you and take forward your action, right? So in essence, this is strategy. Since the course is predominantly strategic leadership, and communication happens to be the language which will deliver the output of the strategy, what it entails is that for those who are really, really interested in this kind of a course, you should ideally look forward to enlarging your understanding of what a market means. And market is many things, right? Market is money, it's economics, of course. Market is cultural capital. Market is capital here. I mean, capital here is not New Delhi. Capital here is an economic equivalent. Market, I mean, cultural capital, social capital, symbolic capital, right? Intellectual capital. You want any other experience capital. So there are lots of terms that are entering into the entire discourse of what leadership communication is. So you will get a bandwidth of course, jargons, but more than jargons and what they stand for becomes important in trying to understand that at a very leadership level, right? When you take major decisions for organizations, right? For verticals in an organization, and for industries, and right, globally, the responsibility of it is far more than just talking effectively, because there are consequences to what you talk, what you write, what you present. Again, communication is not just about talking, and communication is just not about self-presentation. Self-presentation means you are part of a firm, you are part of an organization, so your identity has a lot to do with the organization you belong to. One of the reasons why you are sitting and hearing this is not because Professor Purva Bharadwaj and myself have journal articles and books. It also matters that we come from and we are representing a certain organization. It's the same thing with any individual working. So this is another important vantage point one has to understand, that leadership communication and leadership in markets and business today matters in the sense the institutions you belong to. Because the market today is governed by institutions, not by individuals. This is a clarity you have to understand, right? It's not you who's going to do the magic and change the world. There is a lot of surveillance happening. We are living in a very, very, in a world which is interestingly becoming more innovative, but ironically, there's enough panopticon. Panopticon means surveillance on you and on institutions. There are regulations, and the government is playing a very, very vital role. The corporates are coming in. Again, globally, if you're going to look at the global world, this is all communication. It's not globalization is entering a new phase where the local is becoming more important, and the global is entering into the local. You have to know the larger horizon of things to know why your organization behaves in a certain way. Forget about how you should behave. You come right at the end. So why an organization behaves in a certain way is largely due to why an entire industry is behaving in a certain way, which is largely due to the profit motives coming in from the market and the regulations coming in from the government. So there's a lot of governance happening. There's a lot of governance happening. There is a lot of profit and sales happening on the other side. Then there's a pandemic happening. There is disruption happening. But if you're going to think of COVID as the reason for maximum disruption, then you're reading the market wrong. Disruptions have started long back with the internet, with the digital. There are many kinds of disruptions happening today. The fact that there are more, what do you call that? K-drama. You know what is K-drama? Korean dramas coming in on Netflix plays a big role in disrupting markets, even in India. What I mean to say is things that look as if they're not very important for you to know become important points for you to know in order to even understand, how and why and what you can do for your organization. And once you understand what you can do for your organization, you would better understand how to build the content of communication. So communication can only happen when your understanding of your organization and the market and the ecosystem is good. You can't communicate in vacuum. And again, please, there is no generic formula that this is one formula and you apply it and it gets done. It doesn't work like that. It is very, very context specific. It is very historically embedded, right? And it's about you, your organization, the stakeholder, the market, the country, and globally and locally, all of it coming together, and you make an intelligent decision of how do you communicate. Continuing from that, what we've tried doing is we attempt to delineate these contexts, these different kind of contexts at a macro market level and then at a micro personal level, right? So we're not going to just do you and how do you talk to your boss. That's not the point in the course. That will come in. But what I'm saying is a general understanding of how a larger market operates, right? Within which there are different organizations and industries. And then within the different organizations and industries, there are verticals and profiling. Within the various verticals and profiling, there are different set of problems. And for different set of problems, there are these many players playing. And within that, you have to communicate. So it's a very, very complicated web. And the beauty of leadership here is how you as an individual, right, learn to interact with all these complications and develop your content. Our attempt is in your ability to maneuver this intricacy and bring out something fresh in terms of your knowledge about communication, markets, and business from our side, and how you use it in your professional space in terms of how you present your views in a complicated situation. Keeping that in mind, right, the few things that we are coming up with, right, both at a macro and micro level are as follows. At a very macro level, we first tell you what communication strategies are about. I mean, what are the communication strategies? And there are quite many in line in terms of, strategizing is how do you plan, how do you understand the world, and how do you develop the content architecture, which basically implies that there are two important things that you need to remember, particularly in today's very, very complicated times in the world of business, is that how do you communicate in any context where the other party feels benefited by what you are stating, and at the same time, however respectful you are, however big your organization is, or however new you are and how much innovative you try and become, how do you still add on to the credibility that the world and the stakeholder has for you. So it is in this larger context that we are going to look at what communication strategies hold for us. What are communication strategies, right? And why is it becoming a vital accessory for leadership, and particularly in management discourse? Strategy and communication and leadership play a strong bonding. They come in with a great bond with each other, and how do they, how does it get operationalized? So at a very, very basic level, what exactly is communication strategy, and what are the various kinds of strategies there are in communication? How do you design a strategic communication content, and how do you play it out, is one of the first things. That's the entry point into our overall course. Then on, right, what we move into is a more nuanced area, and this is where the turning point comes in our course as compared to most of the other courses in communication. And we've made a good comparative analysis to bring forward this particular course, is of course what we call persuasion and argumentation. Any business communication course will talk about persuasion, because at the end you have to persuade. And what do I mean by persuasion is, persuasion by default entails that you don't have a ready-made audience that side. So you'll have to work to get them say yes to you. And the fact that you have to work to get them to say yes to you is that you need to understand them. That is, you have to understand the audience. Again, this will be played out at a macro and a micro level. The macro level angle is more about psychographics. And as organizations, how do you communicate to a larger mass audience? Okay, so it's not just about you and your team. So when we're talking about the macro level, it's like, say, an education organization. How does it reach out to these many audiences, and what kind of audiences? And if they're looking for a certain kind of audience, how are they going to, develop the content for that sales pitch? So we call it a sales pitch. So this has a lot to do with analytics. And if you have something called data analytics, we also have something called communication analytics. And what is communication analytics? Communication analytics is essentially more about, analyzing the psychographics of the market, and according to different audience belts, how are you going to develop your sales pitch? For instance, how do you sell an idea to innovators, as opposed to how do you sell an idea to, say, laggards? And if you're aware of laggards are those who are not so much into digital spaces. How do you talk to a Generation X person, as opposed to the current terminology being used called Generation C? So what is Generation C? Generation C is called the connected generation, which is no more age specific. These are generations who operate only on YouTube and digital space. So if you're going to reach out to somebody on YouTube and a digital space, your content has to be widely different from, say, you're reaching out on a very different platform to a Generation X or a millennial or a Gen Z. Right? And the more younger the generation gets, we cannot avoid the digital media in that case, right? So this is at a macro level, right? At a very micro level, of course, it is about, public speaking. And what we mean by public speaking is, how do you talk to a larger set of audience? And I'm going to just take a break here and let Professor Apurva Bharadwaj come in and talk about public speaking, and then I'll get back again. Apurva, over to you. You can take this up.
Yeah, thank you, Pragya. So in public speaking, what essentially we will be doing is that we'll be talking about how do you, talk to low interest audience groups, all right? People who are not interested, people who are hostile, people who are likely to say no, all right? So how do you deal with these difficult audiences, all right? So we will be talking about high interest audience, low interest audiences, and then what strategies do you deploy when you're talking to high interest audiences as compared to when you're talking to low interest audiences as a public speaker. Also, we would be talking about how do you make a particular, how do you communicate to them your credibility, which is a very important factor as a leader, that unless people trust your word, they are not likely to follow you. So we'll talk about how credibility is important, and what options do you have for establishing your credibility? There could be expertise credibility, there could be common ground credibility, there could be rank credibility or credibility by association. So we'll be talking about the various forms of credibility, which is especially important in today's post-trust era. All right, we are because here, unless people trust you, and people find it very difficult to trust people, people are not likely to follow you as a leader communicator. We'll be also talking about various persuasive strategy. Now, as Pragya has rightfully pointed out to you, the psychographics. One persuasive strategy may not work for all stakeholders. So we will be seeing, like, there is, say, a range of a wide gamut of some 8 to 10 persuasive strategies, so to say, with you. So now you have to see, like, which persuasive strategy which would fit what kind of audience in what context, right? So this is one more angle we will be looking at as a public speaker. So again, as I told you, public speaking is not just about how impressive I am. Public speaking is about how I reach out to you, how I map you, and then after mapping you, how do I select the right credibility forms, right persuasive structures to reach out to you? How do I design my message? Which point should I bring up first? Which point should be parked towards the end? So how I will be building up my content in such a way that you get receptive towards my content. So I have to, first of all, as a communicator, first work on building that receptivity aura. And once I build up the receptivity aura, then only I can make a space for myself as a communicator. So I have to create that space. All right. There could be other challenges that people have their own notions. Some there can be some popular notions there. They have some preconceived biases, right? And you have to cut through the clutter. So how do you handle them in such a way that you let them know that, yes, look, you may be right. What you think, what are the popular notions out there, whatever are your preconceived biases, these can you analyze in front of them, and then you say, no, this will not work. And then you create a space by excluding alternatives. You create a space, and then you enter in with your key message. So these are certain strategies which will help you in interpersonal communication as well as a public speaker. So that's why, and we'll be taking certain case studies, like, for example, case study of Steve Jobs, as to how Steve Jobs created market for, say, iPhone, okay, a market which was already having lots of competing brands, right? And he had to sell an iPhone. So how he created his own space. So how he could sell iPod, how he could sell an iPhone, all right? So first of all, he used something like problem solution strategy, where he first problematized the contemporary market. And then after problematizing, he pitched in, he presented his product as a solution to that problematized market scenario. So these are certain strategies which we would be discussing with you, which can make a huge difference to what you are speaking. So that's our perspective of looking at public speaking. So it's no longer about how Abraham Lincoln spoke or how Martin Luther King spoke and how I could use analogies and metaphors to mobilize people. It's not just that, it's more beyond that, all right? So it's more about how do I make a benefit statement, how I make that proposal look like a benefit proposition for an audience. So how do I sell my idea to the other party? So it's more about working on benefit economics, where there could be my benefit, but I communicate to you that, look, this is your benefit as well. So it's not about like you're playing a tactic. It's about you are communicating it in a certain way that people find, yes, here lies a great idea. Sometimes you have great ideas and you don't know how to sell it. It's all about that. So it's like you have a great product. It's not that iPhones were not great products. It's about you have a great product, you have to sell it. Okay, so that is how that's the perspective with which we would be dealing with public speaking. So that is one of the modules. The other module would be we will also be talking about how do you present in a virtual environment like the kind of environment we have for communication. So we will be dealing with one particular episode of virtual communication in virtual spaces as well. We'll also be dealing with PowerPoint presentations, but not from the point of view of how flashy or flamboyant you can make them. It's about how do you use that tool in an effective manner. And there could be very simple ways of making PowerPoint presentations, which could be more effective than just using very jazzy fonts or colors or very flashy visuals. So we'll be talking about that as well. So that's your whole module of public speaking. Also, we will have another module that is on cross-cultural communications. Those of you who are dealing with overseas clients, managing maybe virtual teams, which are globally dispersed. So from different geographical spaces, people come with their own cultural paraphernalia. And how do you speak to them? How do you persuade them? Like in certain cultures, you can persuade more on using logos. That is, it's more about rational appeal. In certain other cultures, it would be more about emotional appeal. Certain cultures are relationship oriented. Some cultures are result oriented. Some are monochronic cultures, some are polychronic cultures. So we'll be identifying certain core cultural dimensions which will help you in making your communication more palatable to a certain culture X, right? So that's what we are going to cover in cross-cultural communications. Then we also have digital and social media communication, which is so very important in today's era where people are communicating constantly in digital spaces. And that's quite different from the conventional manner, a conventional way of expressing. So we'll be talking about how do you use social media platforms for communicating. So that's one more module. And then we have a module on conflict management, where we talk about how do you use descriptive communication rather than evaluative communication to diffuse tensions. How do you deal with a conflict in a productive way, talking about non-exclusive goals, so that in a symbiotic way you communicate and you diffuse tension. So how communication can help you in diffusion of tensions and creating more productive conflict resolutions rather than what you can say zero-sum dysfunctional conflict resolutions. So these are certain modules which are there in the program. There are many other modules for which I would invite Pragya to talk about. So over to you, Pragya.
Yeah, thank you. I can see a number of chat questions there, right? I would still request that you can ask the questions more towards the end. Thank you, Arjun, for bringing up that very important aspect today about, the death of one of the talk show hosts, right? Coming back to this, so you have something called communication strategies. We have something called public speaking, sales pitch. We have persuasion and argumentation. Again, where we are coming in with a slightly different understanding of persuasion is something called nudge theory, right? And what exactly is nudge theory? We're going to apply a lot of behavioral economics. I hope some of you might be aware of this subject, which has become very important in recent times. And nudge is a recent book which has won the author a Nobel Prize in economics. So what is behavioral economics is, you're not just looking at behavior. So generally what will happen is if you study a lot of organization behavior, body language and all, it is about individual behavior. But behavioral economics is looking at behavior through an economic lens. That is, whatever decisions you take and the behavioral aspects of communicating those decisions have a lot to do with, how do you convert that into an economic prospect. I think somebody has asked here a typical question, which is difficult to answer, that, how does it help elevate your position in your present organization? And do you get opportunity to interact with other organizations so as to get better placed with good packages, which organizations like upgrading is offering? We can offer you methods, techniques, and intellectual knowledge, right, with context-specific examples and assignments for you to use and develop schemes in which you can upgrade. We cannot help you directly upgrade your position. So that must be a clear position everybody needs to. We are an educational institution. What we are doing is you complete a 6 months course, you get a certificate for it, which shows that you've studied through it. We give you intellectual assistance in terms of telling you where nudge works, how it works, what is it about, what is behavioral economics. Within that, how is communication being applied? Within your organization, what are you going to do? After that, it has a lot to do with what you do with it. And all long distance programs in such institutions are also about what you do with the learning, right? We are not going to elevate your position. We're going to give you tools and techniques that are updated versions of communication literature that is happening globally everywhere, right? And how are you going to make use of it in your personal sphere? Matters a lot on your agility of what you do. Are you a good learner? Do you make good use of it? That has to come from you. It'll be difficult for us to change your life, but what we can do is give you intellectual capital and tell you these are things which will help change your life. Let me give another example. There was a question here that somebody said he's been there for 20 years in MNC, right? And he's asked, between IIM Calcutta and ISB, on strategy, what should I go for? Which is better? And how is it going to help you? First and foremost, we are not here to kind of sell IIM Calcutta to you. Between organizations, it's your call, right? That is not the point of the webinar, but in terms of the course, we are not running a strategy course. We are running a course called Strategic Communication in Leadership, right? Which is very nuanced and different from a regular strategy course. And that is why we are saying, that is one of the reasons why I started in the beginning saying, these are not your regular communication courses that are available, because if they're available on different platforms, you may as well take them. There's no point repeating one more from IIM Calcutta. So we are trying to say that we are trying to fill in a certain kind of gap in terms of, at a leadership level, what is required of communication as a tool and as a function for you in operating and taking forward your ideas, right? How do you make an impact with the people and, of course, in and around the vicinity? Coming to experience, you've been there for 20 years. That's great. That should be a benefit, actually. And I did write that on the chat as well. There is a word called agility, which is being used a lot today. And this particular course is about a very agile form of communication. And what is agility? Agility means at whatever position you might be, are you upgrading yourself? So whether you've been there for 9 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you have to grow. So even after 20 years, what is it that you add on to your portfolio in terms of your understanding and knowledge of the market and your role? So there is always something to add on. And this is precisely the reason this course is coming in, because it is about people who had an experience for this amount of time. And when you want to upgrade, right, upgradation, you want to be agile. Agile means you want to walk with time. So it is to understand what the current contemporary market is looking for, what kind of tough situations is it throwing upon you, and how you, with your experience and with the intellectual capital that we intend to, offer to you, how do you take all of that and add a little more to what you've already added so long in your experience. So of course, from nudge and behavioral economics, we also have something called a post-colonial market. And what we mean by a post-colonial market, see again, terminologies to be used is an emerging market, how we are operating in an emerging market in an organization situated here. And today, this is becoming even more and more important. Like if you heard the Prime Minister talk, right? He talks about local and vocal, right? So there's a lot of things happening in the emerging market, and a good example long back initiated by Mr. Darius, which still stands in my mind, is, for instance, the kind of work, say, e-commerce sectors like Amazon, they come into the market, go to the rural part of India, do the work, and then a home organization firm like Reliance then decides to buy in and acquire it and take it over, and something is already ready made, and then they take it over. See, these are important understandings to have, to then locate how you are going to communicate. So what I'm continuously trying to say is you have to understand the context very well to then establish, how you're going to build the content for communication, which means before you communicate, what you need to do becomes very, very important in this course. It's not directly about, I'm going to just immediately communicate. You have to really understand the context very, very well, study it, research it, figure out the trend, find out the gap, and then figure out, okay, this is a space I have in which I'm going to communicate. This is the idea I have to develop, which I then have to communicate. And in order to get people to accept my idea, I will have to benchmark my idea with the reasons for why we need to do this. How are you going to do that unless you don't study the market well? So bottom line, communication strategy for leaders is actually studying your organization and market very well. It needs a studied way of looking at things, and that is what we intend to bring into the portfolio. All right. Of course, we're going to have conflict management, as Professor Apurva has already discussed, right? And negotiations also come into play with that. Apart from that, there is another angle which becomes very, very important, and that is development of, branding. How do you brand yourself, and what are you going to do with your organization, or if you're going to go into a new product, or which is the direction in which you should move, right? You want to open up something new. How do you project that to the world? So we have something called, the myth quadrant technique, in which what we are going to do is we're going to tell you, how do you know where the market is moving? Can you predict, right? Do you know how to analyze a trend? Can you predict? And if you can predict, do you find that gap where you can come in and develop the backing for your ideation? Where should you place your idea? Where should you place yourself after having worked so long? When you want to make another movement, where do you need to move? With that come in related terms like analytics. That is, you have to know how to analyze communication to understand where market is moving. Apart from analytics, there's something called skill adjacency. I am good in finance. Is that good enough? Or is my skill important in an adjacent market, or is the adjacent skill required? Then we have related terminologies like polymath. Polymath is becoming a very, very important term. If you read a lot of Harvard business cases, this word has become a recurrent word that is operating, and the meaning of that is interdisciplinarity and multi-specialization. With data analytics rising up, just being specialized in one thing is not good enough now. Gradually, you need to have a more broader vision of number of disciplines to know how you can mix things up, mediate, and bring about a newer, agile version of yourself and your skill sets for an organization which itself is working in an agile market. What I mean to say is, see, even the market movements are agile. It's not just you. So the requirement of jobs are gradually changing. The requirement of your skill sets are gradually changing, and hence with the inflow of the importance of lifelong employability, and lifelong, skill set upgradation, how we bring in various perspectives from various disciplines and verticals and understand, a larger perspective of things in which my focus specialization can have a greater value in maybe an adjacent market becomes again very, very important. So there is going to be a little bit more about analytics and how you analyze markets, all right, to understand communication. Here comes another catch. Sometimes we always think that communication is a tool which we use to get something. Here, communication itself can become a product. Say, for instance, storytelling. The kind of stories that are being generated in the market by a certain industry should already give you a clue as to what the trend is in the market. What I mean to say is, you can also learn to read and analyze industry communication as such to also know what is working and what is not working in the market, right? Generally, market research is what? You go and do a lot of surveys and you find out who is saying what. Here, the difference is, if you look at just, for instance, just the web pages of a number of firms everywhere, and in the term and in the manner and stylization they communicate, you really get to know a lot about, what kind of persuasion tactics are working, what are they trying to do. Can you read the strategy of your competitors? Can you understand, the next move that particular industry is going to make? This analysis part becomes very, very important, and hence one of the important parts of communication strategy as leaders and as leaders is you need to be good market analysts. So that is another angle that will come into play. So self-branding, and in terms of if the brand is shaking and the market is shifting somewhere else and I need to revitalize the brand proposition all over again, how do I do it? Do I know where is the market moving, and thereby do I need to know how to change my communication strategy? That is an important angle that will also come in through this particular program, right? Apurva, you want to add anything, or do you want to talk about the exams? There's been a question on how are we going to teach and how are they going to learn? Over to you, Apurva.
Yeah. Are you referring to the question where someone has written here that most of us are experienced, and experience is the best teacher? So what over and above it we are going to gain from the course? So this is the question of Swati Priya. So am I paraphrasing what your question rightly, Swati? Are you there? Yes. So I would like to say, okay, all right. So yes, we do learn certain things with experience, no doubt about it. But what this course will do is that it will add to your experience in the way that we will be talking more about, as I told you, the different forms of credibility, the different persuasive structures, different principles of argumentation. All right. So there are certain things which we learn intuitively, and certain things which we learn through, say, discussions, applications of theories, case studies. All right. So herein is what we are going to do is that with the help of examples, case studies, theoretical backup, we are going to equip you with more such tools of building communication, strategic communication. So it would be like an add-on to your experience. Also, you can test your own experience on, say, a kind of a touchstone, which will be providing that what you did intuitively, was it right? Could you have done better? Right? And if such challenge comes back to me in future, say in some other form, how will I move forward? So this is here we come in. So experience has a role to play, but with experience, if you add up case studies, theories, latest trends in the research or academia, then it's going to sharpen your tools of communication all the more. So that's what we are looking for. And we're particularly taking people who have 8 years of experience or so, because these are the people who have been there. They know what are the challenges, right? They have tried in their own capacities to counter these challenges, right? But here is where we will be interacting with you, discussing with you as to what your experiences have been, what you did in a certain, say, situation A, situation B, situation C. And when we will discuss with you, we'll be able to give our own input. So it's like industry, academia, symbiosis, where we will be knowing from you what's the ground reality. We will be also sharing with you our insights, because we are into the latest research, the latest discourse which is going on in the domain of marketing, management, business. And this is how it would help you in doing, say, what you have been doing in a more insightful manner. And as I said, you will be able to evaluate yourself as to what you did in your, say, 8 to 10 years of corporate career. Could you have done it better? Or even if you did better, why you could do it better? Say, so these principles you will be able to understand. So certain things which we intuitively understand may not be able to explain them as to how, what happened and what was that helped me. This course will help you in identifying it. So it's like introspection, insight, all right? And then, of course, taking what's going on, what's the latest, what are the latest trends or knowledge or going on in the management academia, that would help you. So that's how I would like to look at this issue of your quizzing us as to how experienced people are going to learn from it. So that is why we are taking experienced people, because they will be able to all the more relate to what we are discussing here, and will be able to apply it, because they have been there, they have seen the vicissitudes of markets and organizations. So they will be able to appreciate all the more as to how we can apply these communication strategies. All right. Okay. Yeah. Any other question?
Yeah, I think, what we will also do, Professor Pragya and Professor Apurva, because we have a larger audience who might not be knowing the entire format of the program. So just for the knowledge of everyone, so this is going to be a live online program, which is planned to start from first week of March. It is a 6 months program. We already have delivered the first batch very, very successfully with a good number of participants. And the sessions will be once a week, every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that is going to be the format. You can attend your lectures from the comfort of your home or office using your laptop. So the delivery will be mostly on Zoom. So that will be flexible for everyone in terms of timing. The course fee of the program is 1,85,600 plus 18% GST, which can be paid in 4 installments. We have 4 breakups lined up. And there is one campus visit also, which will be dependent upon the pandemic situation, however. But we will have one, campus visit of 4 days at the IIM Calcutta campus at the end of the program. So that is the form and format of the program. And in order to apply for the program, you have to go online and apply. It's an online application, link. So once we finish off the Q&A, and you will get a mail with the brochure and the link details and every other details relating to the program, so that your doubts are clarified. I think one query, Professor Apurva, which people had, was the we need to clarify is the form and format of assessment. So the assessment part, if you can share. Yeah, you are muted, Professor Apurva.
We will give you some project work. So project work would be based on whatever we would have done in preceding modules. Means we will have certain points of evaluation as far as the timeline of the course is concerned. And say after every 2-3 modules, there would be some kind of evaluation component. So there could be project works given to you as teams. That is one part of the evaluation. The other part of the evaluation is that we invite you to speak, to give presentation, say a persuasive pitch, all right, and applying the communication strategies which we have discussed in the class. So you will be coming up as an individual and or as a part of the team, and you would be speaking on a certain situation, and where you need to put in your all the argumentation skills and persuasive skills to trying to communicate your agenda to the audience. So that's one kind of module along with the project work. The other module would be certain case studies would be given to you, and you have to, it's like a simulation of the actual workspaces where you have to get into that course, that case scenario, and enact a certain role of a protagonist in this case, and say if you're talking about a CEO or a corporate leader who is facing a kind of a dilemma, say an ethical dilemma. So how do you look at that particular challenge? What would be the stand you would be taking, and how will you communicate that stand? So you will have to give a case presentation. So these are the kind of evaluation modules which we are going to take up. So all these evaluation modules will have theories, principles applied to certain work scenarios, and how well you apply and how well you communicate using those strategies. That's what we would be evaluating you on. All right. Pragya, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah. See, the course is designed for people who are working, right? And the interesting thing about this is it's just once a week, 3 hours, right? Once a week. You'll have us and some other faculty who are experts in those fields coming up, delivering lectures, discussing with you, right? Again, you have some 8 to 9 modules. See, it's a 6 months course, it's short. So in a short course, we can't go in depth into every subject, but what we do is we'll give you a bird's eye view of the updated research that is happening in these various aspects of communication strategy, public speaking, argumentation, persuasion, conflict management and negotiation. How do you communicate in a post-colonial emerging market, right? Digital communication, branding, self-branding, prediction of markets through communication, that is communication analytics, visual communication. Communication is not just verbal and non-verbal. The visual angle also comes in. So all these aspects we are bringing in terms of the larger leadership project. So once a week for 6 months, and you have a mid-term and an end term. In the middle of the 6 months, you will have a project work. There'll be a team developed, and you will have to submit. It's a project work. And at the end, you will have to make public presentations because you are communicating. So we have to see you do the communication along with having worked on it. These are the only 2 evaluations that will be done, and these evaluations are mandatory. Other than that, in the process of 6 months, we teach, we share the knowledge, we share secondary materials with you, and it will be great when you go through it and see what more you can do with it. But otherwise, it's basically a weekly meeting with some people from an academic institute who are working on this particular subject, with people from the industry who are also regularly communicating, who've been experienced enough to be in that field and yet have a curiosity to know what more can be learned in terms of making an impactful communication in a strong leadership role, right? So it is not essentially very heavy every week. It is not essentially very, very light every week. Ideally, what we feel is will probably provide an intellectual stimulus which can get you thinking. The other part is the 2 assignments that will be done in the middle of the 6 months and at the end of the 6 months gets you to really interact with your peers in the group, because you come to do group work apart from the individual presentations that you make. So it helps develop a certain kind of camaraderie with many others from different industries who are also taking this particular course, right? So that is another advantage you have, and seeing the typical questions here at the end.
Now, one more thing I would like to add, Pragya, here. we will be giving personalized feedback to you on your communication stints. So we'll be working on one-to-one basis where we will be discussing with you as to what you spoke, what was done very well, what could have been what could have been done better. So it's like personalized feedback which we will be giving, spending considerable time with each one of you. And this will not only help you, it would be a great peer learning also when we will be discussing all the presentations in detail, giving our feedback. So that also is a key takeaway of the program. So it's not just like you speak and you go. There would be a lot of post-presentation discussion on what you spoke and what could have been done better. Or sometimes you may come out with fabulous presentations and learn from one another. So that is also one important aspect of this course module, that is personalized feedback. Yes, over to you, Pragya.
Yeah, right. So what I'm trying to say is it's comfortable 6 months. It's not, it won't tire you out, except when you will have to make do with the midterm and the end term, which will be spaced in such a way that you work on it continuously so that you're ready for it towards the end. It's not like a surprise thing which will be dropped on you suddenly and you'll have to do it. It's not in that capacity. So hoping for a comfortable and incremental understanding of the course, and in terms of preparing for the presentations and the exam. That is essentially how it's going to work. Right. I think lots of people are asking about the alumni group, right? All long distance programs in IIM Calcutta after successful completion, and successful completion involves two important things. See, there are two things very, very sacred to long distance programs in IIM Calcutta. One is attendance. Attendance is important, right? There is I think 66% requirement of attendance across the 6 months, right? So that is something you have to take care of it, because these are serious things for us, and it's a serious institute, and right, so there is a requirement of that. So that is essential, because if that doesn't happen, you don't get a certificate. These things will be written in the brochure. Once you can have a look at the brochure, and it would state that very clearly. The other is you will have to pass the exams, because at the end it's a course, and a course means you have to be examined, and you get an evaluation for it, and once that is done, you get a certificate for it, right? So once you successfully complete the course and you get a certificate, there is something called the long distance program alum status, and yes, you get that. And Calcutta has a very, very long tradition of LDPs. We call it long distance programs. So you become part of that larger alumni base of the long distance program alum status, and that would be some 16, 17 years of LDPs running in this institute, and yes, you are a part of it.
I think there are many queries regarding alumni of the last batch. That is the angle with which I think they're asking. So yes, you can get in touch with the alumni of the last batch and know from them as to what was their experience of the course. All right. Yes. Any other question?
So I think professors have been kind enough to respond on the chat box to most of the queries, but yet if somebody has a question, can unmute and speak also. So we can open up for the Q&A right now, and if you have a few specific questions, we can answer those. Although we are running a bit late off track, but we will be happy to take a few questions.
Hi, good evening.
Yes.
Good evening.
Yeah, this side Darshak here from Gujarat, Surat. I have one question. So many alumni programs are going on for the long-term courses and short-term courses are there. Okay, so I just wanted to know that alumni status, is it attached with this certification program? Means 6 months program, it's a short-term program, So I really wanted to know that is it a continuous alumni status will be provided in this program?
Okay, this is, may I know your name again? I'm sorry.
Darshak.
Dashak, yeah. Dashak, this is an LDP, it's a long distance program, even if it is 6 months, all right? Short programs are MDPs, management development programs. They run for a week or 3 days or 5 days. So there's a difference between both of them. Whether 6 months or 11 months or a year, these are all long distance programs, and on successful completion of the program, you get an alumni status.
Can you please brief me? Can you please brief me about the successful completion of this program?
I think, Ashok, that is what I was doing before that, but I'll repeat it all over
That's
again.
66%. 66% attendance.
And you have to pass both the exams. You have to pass the midterm and the end term.
Can you please brief down about the midterm and end term examination, ma'am?
Midterm is in the middle of the 6 months, you will have an examination. It will be a group project. The end term will be presentations, which could be group or individual, right? As per what it turns out to be, it will be presentation, oral presentations. You have to attempt both of them and be evaluated on it and pass the course.
Can we get the evaluations things that on what basis that evaluations will be made?
In terms of your use of what is taught in the class and how you use it in the question asked.
Right? Is there any particularly the passing grades that you have in the group project?
Yes. You can't afford to get a poor.
So what are the
These
criteria?
Are qualitative. What is the criteria? You have to communicate well. You would have done the context analysis well. And the criteria is you have to use the techniques taught in the course well.
I mean to say that if examination of 100 marks are there, okay, passing mark is 33%, okay, 35% like that. So can you brief me on that example?
No, actually, Darshak, I think you're getting too much stressed on examination issue. Actually, what we will be doing is that, say, for your project work or your presentation work, we'll be giving you certain grades. Grades means fair, good, excellent. You should not get poor. And I'm quite sure you won't get poor. All right? If you're attending the course sincerely, you just not get poor. All right. So once you get fair, good, excellent, pass. All right.
Yeah. Just a second, Darshak. I think I know where you're coming from. Any long distance program you do, okay, they will all have exams. Okay. True. All. It cannot be that we just teach, you take the secondary material and you get a certificate. Then this it doesn't work that way, Darshak. Any long distance program, whether it is this or any other, because what the exam intends to do is not to grade you poor, Darshak, and I don't see it. What it intends to do is, unless you don't try using what has been taught in a limited sphere, agreed, right? You will never know the flavor of it. You will just take it and understand it, yes. But it's just supposed to be fun to make an attempt, understand it, right? And present it, and that becomes a great process to figure out what we can do with this intellectual capital that is coming our way. And I don't think it should be difficult, Darshan. It hasn't been difficult for the earlier batch. It generally, everybody does well. Everybody gets a certificate. And the question is, it is just a means to experience yourself once again back to school, because you are learning. You could be 20 years in the market, but once you're taking up a certain course all over again, it also means you want to learn, right? So how do you know you've learned unless you're not tested?
True. I'm not against the testing.
Yes, I understand. So what I'm saying is, how are you going to be evaluated? The evaluation pattern and all simply will be in terms of how you apply what has been taught.
So there are two good parts to the program, which I will, since we have been handling many programs. The one good part is that there is no written exam or there is no online exam. So that is ruled out. Whatever is an assessment is a presentation based or assessment based, right? Or assignment based rather.
Okay.
So these are two things.
query.
Second level of confidence is that in the last batch, we almost had 100% success. So I think that should
Okay.
narrate a story for you and a roadmap for you that how things are moving.
Okay.
Somebody wrote about placement assistance. We don't provide any
Yeah.
placement assistance. All right.
Hey, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hi,
Ma'am, this is
my
this
name is Dr. Remy.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor, go ahead.
Can you give me one second? My Bluetooth, ran short of power.
Okay.
Give me one quick second. Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we can.
Hi. I've got a doubt. What is the difference between MDP and this long distance program?
MDP.
So
Okay, I can answer that.
yeah,
Yeah.
please.
LDP is a short form of something called long distance program. These are
No.
these are
So you
more
were telling
intensive, right? They're intensive and they continue over a longer period of time. MDPs are called management development programs. They are 2-3 days. They're short, bird's eye view, and you get a quick understanding of things. It's done and it's over. That's the basic difference.
that's
And
done.
there are two different sets of programs run in two different verticals from the same organization.
So how do you benefit, in an MDP, and how do you benefit? Yes, I understand. You've been explaining about the long distance program. I get all the details of that, but what is the benefit of an MDP over this long distance program?
MDP is more like a crash course. All right. You do a 2-day workshop. You do a 3-day workshop. It's like a crash course.
Oh.
Right. Long duration program, you get space, okay, to learn more, to apply to apply it more, okay, to learn more, to study more. So it's the same thing. It's like a sachet and a complete package. So that's the difference, okay. So that is the difference. If you're looking for a crash course of 2 to 3 days, you can go for an MDP. But if you want to do some kind of in-depth learning, all right, and test yourself as to how you are learning, understanding and applying those principles, so for that, long duration program will help you. So it all depends on what's your target, what's your objective, and also how about the time at hand? Can you spare 6 months? Or you want to have a quick learning in 2 to 3 days. So it's about your time commitments as well. So there are several criteria to decide whether you should go for MDP or LDP.
Thank you so much for the answers. But do you have any screening criteria for these two programs, either MDP or LDP?
LDPs have screening criteria, right? We hold interviews. It depends. It's different for different programs. There is an SOP you need to fill, and there's an interview, and there's a screening process in the LDP. MDP is dependent. Sorry,
please continue. I'm sorry to stop you. Please continue.
Yeah, there is a screening process in LDPs. It's a it's a larger course. I would rather put this question to you. Suppose you're looking at your team, and one of them has done a 6 months course, and somebody has done a 3 days course. You can yourself figure out which would be more valuable for you when you're trying to assess the person.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. I'm understanding the difference.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the answer. So, and also you said that, and also for the LDP, the screening process. How many participants you will be admitting for, a term?
So we, sorry. So we, our desirable batch size is tentatively about 50. So
50.
So why we want to keep it at that is because the faculties want to have a good level of eye contact and, a good level of, in terms of interaction, so that if the batch size goes very large, personal concentration and focus also is not gained. So with that objective, we would like to keep it within 50 to 60. The first batch has been with about 51, participants.
What is the kind of experience that you're looking at in the participants of this LDP program? The kind of experience, what managerial level or executive level, what is it that you're looking at? Or the kind of years in experience, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
Kindly explain, can you?
So we are looking at managers or business leaders for that matter. So any manager or business leader who has, a graduation at the minimum level, or even a post-graduation, and with minimum 8 years of work experience. So anybody with 8 and above are eligible to apply for this program. Right?
Thank you so much for your answers.
Yeah.
And there is one question regarding on-campus attendance. Last batch, we didn't have any session on campus, all right? For this batch, we are yet to decide. Again, it will depend on the pandemic situation. But yes, if there is a campus component, then your attendance in campus classes would be a must, all right? But things as they stand now, it would be like online only. Okay, and what would be important for us is your minimum attendance requirement and your participation in all evaluative procedures. So that's what currently we are looking for. If there is a campus visit module, then yes, it will be compulsory for you to come to campus. All right.
So generally, if it is not a pandemic situation, the participants will have to.
Visits are compulsory.
Campus visit. Sorry.
Yes. It's a week's program in the campus.
No, sorry. 3 to 4 days.
It's a 4-day. It's a 4-day engagement.
Let's right. One phase, 3 to 4 days in the middle of the program, and towards the terminal end of the program, again 3 to 4 day visit.
Okay. So it's a kind of twice. Within a period of 6 months.
No, just 1 second.
We have just once this time. Yeah.
It will be for what duration of?
I'm sorry. Different long duration programs have different aims, right? In terms of the campus visits they have. As far as this program is concerned, as of now, if you just go through the brochure, there is a compulsory 4-day visit at the end of the program.
Okay.
Once after 6, towards the end, there's a 4-day visit mentioned. And we are hoping that it can happen. 6 months is a long time since when it starts, and right.
Well, and sorry to take so much of time. And one last question. So you were talking about the presentation to the professors, and will it happen during this compulsory 4-day visit, or will it again be?
The intention is that it happens in those 4 days visit, but suppose there's a second wave, third wave pandemic.
Exactly, which
we will have it online. We will have it online. So there's a backup plan for it.
Thank you so much for your kind replies.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ma'am, this is Pallav here. Hello.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Ma'am, actually I have around 15 to 16 years of experience in the field of project management. I am aware about agile technologies. I'm studying it further, and I'm in a managerial position nowadays. So what do you think this course will help me to my personal as well as professional career, or how I can improve after attending this course and successfully completing this course?
Yeah. How it will help you? So do you want to say that you're looking forward to some kind of a change in your career as in terms of promotion?
No.
That's what you mean?
No, ma'am. I see it is an organizational thing, but I am more interested. See, I'm as a communication, so I am very serious about that, because I have a lot of problems in communication. Let us tell it very frankly. But again, I want to improve my communication skill in the field of business so that my presentation and skills will develop. But then I came to know, I know that there are organizational change requires they have some other acceptance as well. There are some other criteria as well to grow. See, I understand this long distance program also. So now what my question is then how it will help to, uh, uh, going into a different level, means how it will, this particular strategic communication will help me to grow inside me, and how I can, I can be a leader later on, means not on organizational front, but how can I represent myself to be a leader, means.
Okay. Darius, you want to say something before I say? Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah. So,
Apurva, once again, I think.
Yeah.
Hi, Darius, were you trying to say something?
No. Means I'm
Yeah. So
no, hi, Apurva, Prashant here. I'll add a few more thing in continuation with the previous participant. I also have the similar kind of questions.
Okay.
So I am also having the same profile as the earlier participant explained. I am also doing the project management in the IT industry and having the same experience of 15 years. So I have also some expectation in terms of, I'll tell you my problem. Most of the reviews goes like flat. We are not able to make the impact. And sometimes we have the
Your audio is going off and on.
Yeah, I think there's a bandwidth problem for you.
Yeah. But in any way, I've got the crux of what question you're asking. All right. So, it would help you as a communicator if you're looking forward to some professional growth or growth in personal capacity, in the sense you want to learn more. And say, when I say improve in communication, again, I would like to reiterate, it's not improvement in English language. It would be improvement in how do you present your ideas, you get acceptability for your ideas, how you deal with audience resistance, how to communicate by cutting through the clutter, making yourself heard, making yourself accepted. So whether it's talking whether it is talking, say, in an interpersonal scenarios, or whether it is addressing senior management or addressing peers or subordinates. So in different ways, it will help you if you learn these communication strategies, definitely. But if you think that it will improve just your English, then that's not the way, that's not the perspective with which we are taking this program.
If you like to add to, sorry, Darius, go ahead.
Yes, specifically from a project management perspective, I mean, I just heard your comment that most of your reviews go flat. So typically, a program like this will first give you the confidence and the comfort to kind of be able to communicate with the customer, to be able to negotiate on things like timelines, to be able to if there are crisis situations, you will learn how to handle them. If there is a good news, you'll learn how to kind of communicate that. It will kind of help you create content. So if you want to kind of suggest a change to the customer, it will help you kind of create an argument for it and then present it so that you get your way through it. So there are many ways, this kind of a program can help you if you're like in a project management perspective. And like Professor Apurva also mentioned about cross-cultural communication. So if you're serving customers in various markets, they come from different cultures. You would have learned, how effectively to deal with people in those cultures, right? So there are a lot of inputs that would kind of be available in terms of frameworks and toolkits, where you kind of superimpose your own learnings and your experience and your content, and that will help you structure, like how Professor Pragyan said, architect the content for communication, which will help you achieve your objective. I hope I'm able to address.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to both of them. There's a portion, right, on self-branding. How do you review yourself and how do you present your skill sets? It'll be insightful. You will get newer perspectives on how to communicate in a context. So that should help you intellectually being confident on your content, as Darais said. I hope that helps in answering your question.
I think, also to add that this program will be a great enabler for you. So the enablement will be there, empowerment will be there, post the program. Yes, in terms of your communication skill set, which is general English communication skill set, you have to improvise by taking up some, English learning courses and other stuff, which you can always, it is always available in the market. So that can go hand in hand, along with this program alongside. But yes, as the key enablers, there will be enablers wherein your level of confidence will definitely grow after you have attended this program.
It's like you have, any question. I would like to just conclude this answer by saying it's just like you have a great idea, you're doing very well, you have a great idea, but you're not able to convince people that, look, this idea would work, this proposal would work. So it would help you in those scenarios where you're doing well, where that you understand it well, but you're not able to make others understand and accept it. So we are going to give you those tools which will help you in selling yourself, your products, your ideas. So that's the view with which we come in. All right, now over to there was somebody who was asking a question. There is one.
Yeah, I think Balaji has raised a hand for a long time.
Mr. Balaji, yes.
Balaji,
Mr. Balaji, please go ahead.
Hi. I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah, very good evening, one and all. And first of all, I thank you so much the way you guys explained very well the importance of the communication, how it will be helpful to in the coming leadership role, and the way wherever you are work, might be in the business or you are working as an organization. As I am working for some of the financial industry from last 20 years. So really, I feel that is one of the important part, as you have said, the communication is the key to success. Whatever in your mind, the way want to know to how to deliver your ideas, thoughts, everything, and put on the board. So just already I got all the answers by the question answer. You people have given all the answers of me, but just I want to understand the experience of the previous batch. As you already said, that experience was quite good. That because it's a second batch, if I feel, as I said, the 50 people batch, the second batch which you're going to do, and the 4 days which you're going to the class attended for the campus meeting. So on one thing, just share me the experience and how all that people with the first batch overall experience, because it's all together, it's a new course for you people also, and for me as well, because of most of the courses are going in around us, but this is quite something different. So experience, just share me the experience of the first course.
So
Mr. Pulak will take over. How they can get the details of the last batch.
So I think to give you from an experience point of view, I think one of the feedbacks that we have got from people who have done this program has been that a lot of people think that they know communication, but after doing this program, they realize that there are many aspects of communication which they are not aware about. Many frameworks, like if you look at the research done, by Professor Pragyan and Professor Apurva Bharadwaj, which is very contemporary in terms of work that they've done. The models, the frameworks, the toolkits that they will give us is very different from what we normally learn as communication. Sometimes we learn on our own, which is not bad. But here there is a structured way in which it helps you to kind of create, a communication process, right? And that is, and like they already told you, that it's not that something that you have not done. You would have done it, but when you look at it from the lens of the frameworks and the toolkits, you realize that I could have done this better, right? So I think from an experience perspective, this is one of the biggest key takeaways that we found people sharing, in the last batch. So we'll try and put some testimonials, put some feedback of the last batch and share that with you.
Right. Just want to add a few things to Mr. Balaji. Yeah. We have been running long distance programs earlier as well, right? So not really the rookies in running it, but this kind of a course, and you mentioned it very well. Thank you for mentioning it. It is different because it's a communication course for leadership. That somebody brought this up. Thank you. We should have said it in the beginning, but that was very nice of you to say that. It is different from it's one of its kind course in terms of something that is happening for the first time in a long distance program as such across the management institutes, because there's a full-fledged 6 months course on communications specifically, unlike, generally management courses are on strategy, finance, banking, operations management, but this is precisely a communication course. Again, like you mentioned, again, good observation. This is the second year, right? The first year has been done. So yes, in terms of experience, that it was different and that there were newer things to learn is something that has come back in the feedback. But at the same time, as you mentioned, this is quite a new venture, and it is just going to be the second batch. So it also has the other ecosystem things that will always be around a maiden project, which can gradually become more and more strengthened as it goes through a number of more years. Mr. Balaji, does that help you in answering the question?
Yeah, surely, yes, surely, yes. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for giving this time.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, perfectly.
I tried, but I've tried to tell you a number of things through it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some testimonials are already posted there. If you go to the IIM website, you see long duration program and you locate this program there. I think some testimonials.
See, Mr. Balaji, to also add to any program, any product placement out in the market will always talk positive about itself, right, Mr. Balaji? That is called strategy, right? So I'm sure you're asking a little deeper than that. So wherever you're coming from and whatever you're asking, it's well taken. And the honest answer is it is a maiden program. And like maiden programs, it has its interesting twists and turns. But yes, overall, it is insightful and should help you.
Yeah,
if interested, right?
Thank
Mr.
you so
Balaji?
much.
Thank you.
In fact, what we are also going to do is that as we send you the information, we will also pass on the testimonials shared by few of the participants also, which are readily available on the website as well. But we will pick up and share it to you over a mail as also. Our academic advisors will reach out to you and they will share all this information as we go forward.
Hi team. I am a 62-year-old consultant who's running 2 business simultaneously. One a lab instrument one and one related to agriculture. Can this be helpful to me?
Yes, we have a lot of things to talk about consultancy. If you're a consultant, this is course soulmate for you. Done at whatever age you might be. Does that help? This course is all about strategizing and consulting. So
I think that in all the disciplines and all the professional domains, communication is something like a common thread across all the disciplines. So whatever you are, whether you're in agriculture, whether you are in industry, even when you are at home, communication helps you in every way. All right. So there could be conflict at workplace, there could be conflict at home. You're trying to persuade somebody in your workspace, you're trying to persuade somebody at home. Communication is a part and parcel of whole walks of life. So it's like a common thread running through all the domains. So it's not about, I'm coming from this background, will it help me? I'm coming from that background, will it help me? Communication helps everybody until unless you say, I'm a totally muted person. I don't talk to anyone. All right. Which I know, which all of us know can't happen. So until unless you are not muted, you're always speaking, you're talking, you're reaching out to people, communication strategies will always help you, right?
To add to this, we're going to use a lot of consulting tips. So you're a consultant already, it should really, really work for you, right? There'll be a lot of consulting material and reports and insight reports from the Big 4 and Big 5 anyway used. Right. So for a consultant, this is a very, very useful course in our opinion. Does that help?
Are there questions, whether it will be via Eruditas or Talent Edge? And
it will be via,
I think
Mr. Pulak and Darius, please, it'll not be via Eruditas and Talent Edge. Please over to you all.
So the program. Yeah. Please go ahead.
So the program is being offered by IIM Calcutta. The faculties are from IIM Calcutta, the certification, the executive alumni status. I just want to also, I think, draw attention to everybody's notice that the alumni status is executive education alumni status. So it's all given by IIM Calcutta. The program partner for the program is VC Now. So Pulak and myself represent VC Now, which is part of Unified Collaboration Services LLP. So we are the program partner, just like Talentage or Eruditus. We are the program partner for this program. So this is not self-paced learning at all. 100% of the class happen on a live two-way interactive mode, right? Just like the way kind of we are having, or maybe even better than this, because we'll be forcing people to put on their videos. It is mandatory that people, kind of interact in the program. And there will be a learning management system. Content will be, kind of given to you through the LMS. You'll be feeded content to the LMS. There'll be a lot of reading material, which will, like Professor Pragyan and Professor Apurva mentioned, that will increase your adjacency skills, right? So beyond your domain, you will necessarily need to read to kind of, assimilate what's going on and then arrive at the communication strategy.
Right. I think Mr. Manish has something to say. Yes.
Please
Manish,
go ahead. Please
Kumar.
unmute your mic and ask the question.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. I'm audible now.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening. This is Manish Kumar. Actually, I have not done my graduation. What about me? I have more than 20 years of working experience. Have done several business like running an IT training institute, software development institute, and in between I had a break from business. And this year only I will be coming out with 3-4 online platform for different businesses. Today only, in fact, I have finalized my premises in Bangalore. So how can I join this course? This is my question.
Manish, Manish, unfortunately, according to the institute protocols, a minimum graduation, if not a full
I have
graduation,
discontinued my engineering. I have discontinued my engineering.
Yeah. But a
After doing
completion
2
certificate
years. No, it's not there.
is required. So what we would suggest you is that if you could complete your graduation through some online medium.
Now I'm not going to complete. I'm touching my age 50. I don't have any passion towards being a graduate now, because I have achieved whatever I had to do. My children's now, they are studying.
I understand, but I think learning has no,
I know that I will take this thing, your
Yes.
suggestion.
Yeah.
But only about this program, I was just inquiring if I can join this course. That was the idea.
We have questions from Stella.
Stella, yeah.
You can go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, very good evening to all the lecturers. I'm Stella from Bangalore. So I just wanted to ask that I've done my graduation in correspondence, and I've got experience about 10 years in one of the famous company here in Bangalore. So can I apply for the course?
If your graduation is from a UGC recognized institution, you definitely can. A distance learning graduation is, of course, a valid graduation, and you can definitely apply.
So I've done my graduation in Bangalore University. So
that is valid.
Is it okay?
Yes.
It's valid.
You can still.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, sir.
Samira?
Sorry, Samira. Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Samira. I'm from Gurgaon. I just wanted to know that just in case worst case scenario situation, if I'm not able to complete because of the attendance, is there like some kind of provision where I'm given like more time or something to get the certificate?
I think in case there's a problem, you have to come back in the 3rd installment of the course the next year, and you can complete it. But you'll need to complete it physically.
Right. So like kind of take it from the class I left off from, and I complete it in terms of all the modules, and then I can get the certificate.
Yes. But Samira, 66% is doable. Should not be a problem.
Yes. I'm hoping to do 100%. I'm just thinking of like worst case scenario.
Yeah. But there is a second year for it. Okay. The next year.
And now I think it's Mr. Ajay.
Mr. Ajay.
Question. Yeah, Jay, you can go ahead.
Great contest. This was very helpful. My question is like, how many hours in a week this course expect us to invest like in terms of the case study or the assignments and the additional learning? Because as you know, like in this post-COVID, we have increased the screen time and there's a lot of stress in the personal as well as the professional field. So just wanted to know, like on an average, like how many hours is expected?
Yeah, I can take this over. Mr. Ajay, it's comfortable, right? We don't have homework after every week, right? We share content. You can read in your time. There's no homework like in this week you read and come, unless some professors will ask you to read a case and come. So cases are not very long. That wouldn't take much time. And in terms of the midterm and the end term, you'll be given enough time beforehand to prepare and develop it. Those are the only times but that work starts quite right in the, I mean, from, it starts quite early and you work on it and it matures in the final moment when you submit for it, right? So essentially, there is no specific time, but if you still want me to state a specific time zone, should be, depends on you, how much you want to invest into reading as per every, I would say 3 to 4 hours a week would be max.
I mean, that is, I would say, mandatory. And then I think out of interest, you can always
go 3 to 4 hours, but it's very, very comfortable. Shouldn't be a, but that,
this was helpful. Thank you so much, Darius and Professor Pragyan. But just to continue to that last question, you are referring to the other lecturers. Means, are there any other faculties going to join you both?
Yes, there'll be faculty according to the expertise of, we are the program directors, right? So every program has a program director. So you will have a set of faculty, including us, teaching you different modules. The same person is not going to teach everything.
But all the faculty members would be from IIM Calcutta.
All are from IIM Calcutta.
Okay. This
they will come from this. For instance, when you will have conflict management, say a faculty from organization behavior will come in, digital communication, somebody who specialized in digital communication will come in, communication strategy, right? Those who worked in communication strategy will come in, right? Public speaking. So you'll have, including us, right? All of us. So you will have different set of people teaching you.
This helps. Thank you so much for this. Very helpful.
But there was Mr. Devender Sinha. He wrote in the chat box he would like to ask questions, so he can just come up and ask his question. Mr. Devender Sinha.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm audible?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I have a question. See, I have an experience of around 22 years, and in which 20 years in an MNC company in a senior manager cadre. Okay, I have a question that at this age, I'm touching already 42. So at this age, this course will be support me in terms of my career development, and how, if this course supports me, how this course will be differ from ISB Hyderabad, because I am from Hyderabad.
42 years is not an age at all nowadays. People are living for more than 100 years now.
Learning is becoming lifelong.
I would say you're very young. Please don't make it look like that. So that is wrong communication.
No, it's not a question of.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Sorry. It's not a question of age.
Yeah, I get it. You're talking about your experience. The whole idea of this course is for experienced people, right? Otherwise, we would have gone for people who've just been there for 4 years and 5 years, right? So it is about people who've been there long enough in an industry to grapple with what we have to offer. Thank you, Nupur. Learning is a lifelong process. And you must have heard of something called lifelong employability. That's a term that is coming in as well. All right. Yeah. Again, I'm just doing a market analysis and trend. A lot of, even Nupur has added here, mid-career courses coming in. So this is becoming a trend now with a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s taking up courses to update themselves, right? Now, coming to ISB and IIM Calcutta, I am not aware of any course on communication strategies for leaders, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe there are strategy courses, not communication.
They have a course. They have a course of strategic management leadership.
Strategic management
I have
leadership
got it
is different
information
from
IIM.
Strategic management leadership is a mainstream course every management institute floats. They have to. It's a basic part of it.
Yeah, it's not a communication course.
Yeah, this is precisely entire 6 months. It is on communication, but it is strategic communication for leaders. It is how do leaders communicate, the language of leadership. That's what this course is about. I mean, there's a language and a grammar to leadership. How do you talk as a leader?
So the ISB program is titled as Strategic Business Leadership, okay, which is totally different from this particular program. This is more on communication strategies. So this is in the area of communication strategy. And while strategy is a separate segment in overall leadership domain. So the program aims at a different kind of a objective.
Okay, there is a question here. I think Darius or Pulak can take over that. If we miss a class, and can we get a recorded lecture?
Yes, I will take that. So right now, IIM Calcutta is allowing us to record the lectures and retain it for 21 days. So only because of the pandemic situation. So in case you are missing a session, we will share the link to you, the recorded link, the subsequent day of the lecture, and which will be live for 21 days, which you can refer to as a referential, or in case if you are absent for that particular class, you can refer that. So that opportunity is being extended right now. Okay, so that you can avail. So that is available.
Any other question? I think we are done with most of the questions.
Yeah. So thank you so much, for attending the session today, and and thank you, Professor Pragya, Professor Apurva, for